as other people have done, my thanks to the Honourable Lady from Dulwich and West Norwood for bringing this important debate forward. Any uncertainty that affects our postal services always causes alarm, because our post offices, our mail delivery, the Royal Mail is still held up as an institution which is held in much affection and esteem, despite the politics which sadly so often swallows it up. However, it is special because the Royal Mail has a unique position in the United Kingdom postal market as the universal service provider and is by far the largest operator in the UK postal market. What consumers want, what employees need, is for the Royal Mail to give full details of planned closures and the scale of any planned job losses. And importantly, what is required is absolute cast iron guarantees that any closures that go ahead will not affect the delivery of the universal service obligation, something held so very dear to all of us. Telling us, the public, that the number of facilities are to be reduced is not the same as being clear and open about the overall plans. We need to be able to see a full list of offices and timescales of proposed closures. We're all concerned about the reductions in this key network, this major public service provider being reduced piecemeal. We need to know what we're dealing with, and a detailed plan is what we need to have in front of us. Of course, it's worth mentioning that this could be a particularly alarming, these measures could be particularly alarming for Scotland. And I would urge the geographical spread of delivery offices, not just the volumes of mail, must be factored into any analysis of proposals to close delivery offices.
I'm very grateful for the Honourable Lady giving way. It's been a very disjointed debate. Now, fear we might be going to be having another vote soon. So I wanted to make this point in case I'm not able to be back for the closing speeches. On the point about geographical locations, in the last debate we had on this, the Minister will recall that I raised deprived areas with a particular emphasis on the effect on deprived areas, and the Minister said she would look into that. So do you hope, as I do, that in the closing remarks the Minister will refer to the effect on deprived areas across the whole of the United Kingdom?
Indeed, I would expect socio-economic factors and geographical factors to feature very largely in the Post Office's considerations, in the Royal Mail's considerations, and indeed in the Minister's response. People are rightly alarmed by the whole prospect in front of us today, since delivery offices are of the utmost importance. Did I say that? My apologies, Mr. Chair. The figures show that we've heard today that parcel delivery is a huge part of our economy and very important to the Royal Mail itself. Indeed, increased parcel delivery was cited as one of the main reasons that Royal Mail's annual profits rose by 25% this year. And we know that frequently parcels are delivered when recipients are at home, or otherwise not at home when parcels are delivered. So trips to delivery offices need to be manageable, and they need to be realistic, and they need to be accessible, even and in particularly in rural areas. Given the growth in the online... Are we off again? Okay, no bother.
Or three. I'm afraid we're going to have to come back later, but hopefully one division back in 15 minutes, and if the people from the front benches are here before then, I will start the wind-ups straight away. Okay, thank you. Patricia Gibson.
Given the growth, I'll just continue, Mr. Speaker. Given the growth in the online parcel economy and the digital economy, given the importance of parcel delivery in general and to the Royal Mail in particular, it does seem odd that against this backdrop, Royal Mail delivery offices face cuts and closures. Digital connectivity is very important to our economy, and as parcel delivery has grown enormously, soaring in fact, due to our increasing digital marketplace, with, according to Ofcom, in 2015-16, almost 2 billion parcels were delivered, an average of 30 parcels per head of the population in 1 year. So any closures must not disproportionately affect our rural communities, which could be potentially hit very hard by ill-thought-out decisions on closures. But, Mr Chair, I cannot help feeling that today we are simply bemoaning and lamenting the symptoms of the ill-judged decision to privatise Royal Mail in the first place. Many of us predicted that such privatisation would lead to service reduction to postal services in rural areas. And over the last 4 years, that certainly seems to have been borne out, as pointed out by the honourable member for Falkirk. As part of the coalition, the Tories and Lib Dems were part of the decision-making process to privatise the Royal Mail. And I would wonder today, and the Minister can perhaps tell us, if that is a decision that they regret. Sadly and regrettably, under the last Labour government, we've had to endure the rolling programme of post office closures that hit my own constituency very hard indeed. And wiser heads than my own, Mr Chair, have stated categorically that the Royal Mail was sold off for far less than it was actually worth. Ultimately, the very future of our delivery service is at stake, and the universal service provision is under real threat, I fear. As I also fear for the future of the entire estate and the public service that it provides. As the honourable member for Hartlepool has pointed out, there is the prospect of the first national strike since Royal Mail was privatised. Royal Mail workers have voted massively in favour of a walkout in bitter disputes over pensions, pay and jobs. Industrial action, of course, was backed by a huge 89% on a turnout of 73% of the 110,000 workers balloted from the Communication and Workers Union, passing even the UK Government's threshold for strike action under the terms of the Trade Union Act, as pointed out by the honourable member from Glasgow South West. Significantly, the unions believe that there has been a relentless programme of cost-cutting to maximise short-term profits and shareholder returns, creating a climate of fear and insecurity in the Royal Mail. And as outlined by the member for Bury North, this has not been helped by the legal action, or the threat, or the prospect of legal action to prevent the impending strike taking place at all. We're all agreed, I believe and I hope, that there is real cause for concern about the future of the entire Royal Mail service, and I urge management and unions to work together to ensure the future of this service. And I urge the Minister to use her good offices to the fullest extent for a positive future for our Royal Mail.
Thank you, Mr Gapes. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairpersonship. And thank you to my honourable friend, the member for Dulwich and West Norwood, for securing this debate. Her campaign inviting for the future local delivery officers in her constituencies